Well, let's start with the Yankees. They needed pitching. They didn't get pitching. I was a bit surprised. The Yankees held on to virtually all their hot young players, if you will, led by Jason Dominguez, a young center fielder who I still can't believe is there. But the Yankees got Jazz Chisholm. And if you can handle the personality, because he spikes a little bit, he might wear your ass out in the clubhouse. He's like CNN. It's on all the time.
Yeah.
Talk.
Right.
Anyhow, so he shows up. He hits 2 home runs in both games 1 and games 2 that he played, and then an RBI double in game 3.
Nice.
So you can flying out of the box. And he can play lots of positions. They had problems at second. They had problems at third. They had a hole in center field. Chisholm, who's still got contract time left, he's been embraced at Yankee Stadium.
A hole in center field. They have Trent Grisham.
That's what I said. A hole in center field.
Yeah.
So anyhow, they get him. I think that was a great acquisition.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, this was part surprise to me and then part reality to me. Philadelphia shakes up the bullpen, and they had a lot of live arms there. But the problem was all those live arms were walking batters all the time. Well, they got rid of a couple of them, and they made the trade to get Carlos Estevez. He's a really good guy. I interviewed him once, really nice guy, and a guy is ferociously driven, and he can bring heat. He had 20 saves on a lousy Angel team in 23 appearances. He goes to Philadelphia, and that is going to seal the deal with them. Although they're not playing real well right now, they're a little bit banged up in the everyday batting order. I just found out today Bryce Harper is 1 for 30.
Really?
That's Bryce Harper. But,
wow.
He plays every minute of every inning. He plays hard all the time, so he kind of looks fatigued. But I think Estevez turns out to be a really great acquisition for Philadelphia in that pennant race. Arizona Diamondbacks. They needed relief pitching. They went out and got a couple. They wanted somebody who could pop home runs occasionally to complement the Christian Walkers and the Martes of the world. And they went out and they got Josh Bell. And Josh Bell helps balance their lineup. Left-handed hitter for the most part with power.
Yeah.
I think the Angels had themselves a really good series of deals at the deadline. Cleveland has been in first place, but when the Padres played the Guardians, a.k.a. my Indians, you could tell that Cleveland had holes in their lineup. Well, they solved a little bit of that. They're a little bit devoid of power if Jose Ramirez is not at the plate. And they went out and got Lane Thomas, right-handed power bat, who can hit some, hits for average, and does pop them occasionally. Got him from the Washington Nationals. And they're a little bit thin in the rotation, veteran rotation. They went out and got Alex Cobb, who the Giants gave up on, and he was ready to pitch. He's had a lot of physical problems for a year and a half. He is back. And Giants moved him right at the deadline in kind of a strange deal. So I think Cleveland gets an insurance policy veteran and does get a guy who can pop from the right-hand side. So I think the Guardians, a.k.a. Indians, did really well. We saw Baltimore last week, and they looked like a fatigued team to me. They looked worn out. But Baltimore goes out and they get Zach Eflin, who's going to be a quality mid-rotation, back-of-the-rotation starter. And then they got Trevor Rogers from Miami, who can be their 5th starter. So suddenly now they got veterans to go with a very young pitching staff, and they've had a lot of injuries on that rotation. Suddenly Baltimore looks like they are a complete baseball team right now. And Seattle did what I think they needed to do in terms of chemistry. They got personality, they got leadership, they got a little firebrand in the dugout because they were not hitting well this season. They've had some injuries. The Mariners go out and they get Randy Arozarena, pepper pot outfielder, hit it all over the place from Tampa Bay. And then they rented Justin Turner from Toronto, formerly Boston, longtime Dodger. And he's a leader in the clubhouse, and give him a right-handed bat to go with all the other bats they have. So I think the Mariners really helped themselves a lot. So from Jazz Chisholm all the way down to Justin Turner, John Riley, give me an opinion.
Well, I remember Chaz Chisholm was on the cover of the MLB video game like a couple of years ago with all of his bling. And it was interesting watching the highlights, seeing him at third base in one of those games, because I always think of him as a second baseman center fielder. But, you got to look at every one of those logos, every one of those teams. They're in it, and they're going for it. And you love to see it. Josh Bell was a first-class guy. Man, when he was here in San Diego, he was such a likable dude. It's fun to see the Orioles and the Mariners competitive and going for it this time of the year. I mean, Seattle had a big lead in the in AL West, but it slipped away, right?
Well, Julio Rodriguez has had multiple injuries, and they, as a team across the board, they just flat stopped hitting. I mean, they went through a month. I think the team batting average was 219. They got a really good pitching staff. Not a lot of household names, the George Kirby's of the world, but they got really good pitching. But so they had two bats, and they add some veteran leadership. Rosarena's a firecracker, and Turner is he's stoic, and when he talks, everybody shuts up and listens. So I think there's some intangible things that the Mariners added to the equation. So those were the winners at the trade deadline.